What is going on, all you Pokemon collect maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and today we're doing a video that's kind of anti-PikaPikaPapa, right? Like, you know that I always talk about I don't buy singles cards until we get to like the 12, 18, 24-month point, and there's a lot of singles cards in here that are well behind that curve, but I have been doing a ton of deep diving into Scarlet and Violet, right? I am absolutely fascinated with Scarlet and Violet and the way it's been performing, and I keep thinking in my mind, like, Scarlet and Violet is getting a lot of bad press, but that's because Sword and Shield is so freaking awesome, and I think so many of us are focused on Sword and Shield right now. There's also One Piece, right? One Piece is getting kind of hot. There's also Lorcana. There's a lot of share of wallet, and I just think Scarlet and Violet is not getting its fair due right now. So as I was looking through all of the Scarlet and Violet sets that have come out so far, it was actually really exciting for me because, to be honest with you, there is some epic artwork out there. I mean, just looking through some of these sets, it is just really, really incredible. Now, not a lot of big name Pokemon, so who knows? This still probably will not go down, you know, as one of the greatest starts to an era ever, but just from an overall art perspective and just from the awesomeness of some of these cards, I feel like it's really getting overshadowed by a lot of the other really exciting stuff that's going on in the hobby right now. So with that being said, I've got some singles cards on here that made me scratch my head a little bit and say, because I think there is some sneaky upside value here. So we're going to be talking about, you know, not the biggest and the baddest names in the Scarlet and Violet set, but as I said, we're going to look at some which have kind of surprised me. You know, we're also going to be looking, I always look for ones that have either formed or are starting to establish some type of support line. Now, again, these cards are still really, really new. There's going to be tons more of these cards flooding into the market over the next year or 2 years and beyond. So that doesn't mean that they can't push through these support lines. But what I'm looking for is just some recent support to let me know that, hey, the hobby at least is interested enough to keep these cards out of this free fall, which we see a lot of the time with new sets. And then, listen, there's only 2 sets on this list. Okay, all right, there's a couple more on here as well. But I really primarily focus on 2 sets from here. And that's because I am focused on value here. And, you know, it's just, I'm still waiting for a couple of the other sets to work themselves out. So with that being said, if this kind of stuff excites you, hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. We're building an amazing community here. I would love for you to be a part of it. And without further ado, let's get into this. So the very first card that really jumped off the page at me and talking about too new for us to talk about, like this shouldn't even be on here. This is very anti what I typically do, but I will say this. This Pokemon Center exclusive stamped Mimikyu right here, I cannot believe I had to do a double take when it's coming in at $7 right now. Now, first off, the art is absolute fire, but $7, right? When you look at every single other Pokemon stamped promo card that comes from those PC exclusive ETBs, like all of them are well above this, and not all of them have art that is as cool as this. Like in all of 2023, we saw very little restocking of those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes, right? We saw Obsidian Flames come back in stock for a little while. We saw pockets of 151, which sold out instantly. You know, we saw a little trickle here and there, but nothing that I would call like a huge market moving restock. Now, Pokemon could totally change that. We could see a ton in 2024 and beyond, but as of right now, we don't see a lot of restocks. And the fact that this one you can only get from those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes, this one is only going for $7 right now. In my mind, I don't speak in definitives, but I think that it would be very, very hard for me to imagine a world where 3-5 years from now, if they don't restock all of these things, that this remains a $7 card. I just don't see it. So I was really excited, and I had to lead off with this one because this was one where I was really just scratching my head like, what the heck is going on here? Now, the very next card, okay. So this Magius right here, I'm pretty excited about this card because I saw it, and what attracted me to it was the art, right? Before I even got into the price graph, I was just scrolling through all of Paldea Evolved because I love Paldea Evolved. I think that is a set that is going to age really, really well. Like, I love the Iono. I know it's coming under a lot of pressure right now because the playability, there's a lot of different Ionos right there, right? But I think the Magikarp is really hype. And when you just look at all of the artwork that's in there, there is some amazing pieces of cardboard in there. And this is one of them. I love everything about this card. The art drew me in, but then when I looked at that price graph, right? Like, this card should be at its all-time worst right now. The Pokemon Pop and Flop that we talk about all the time, which Paldea Evolved is very much in the middle of. These cards come out, they start high, and they come low. But look at this. This thing has been steady Eddie right in the $6 range. You know, it got down to $5 at one point, and it immediately shot back up. This is what gets me really, really excited because obviously there's a lot of people who love and support this card at its current price point, despite the fact that everything in the world tells us this card should be cratering in value. I think that this card is under the radar. I have been hunting for for it on eBay. I've already purchased 2 of them. They're coming in the mail. I think this is going to be a really cool buy and hold. I'm not sure if I'm going to spend the money to get it in a PSA 10 holder or not, but I think having these in the binder could definitely give us some long-term upside if Paldea Evolved ends up doing even a fraction of what I think it could do in the long run. Now, the very next one we're going to talk about right here is this Pikachu from Scarlet and Violet 151. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is a $20 card. How can a $20 card and anything from 151 be flying under the radar? Well, in my mind, I think this card is undervalued at 20 bucks. Like, we have seen any of these cards, I call them Pikachu and Friends cards, right? Whenever you have Pikachu and a group of other Pokemon and they're participating in a shared activity, over the long run, those cards do really, really well. Look, you got Gengar in here, you got Arcanine, like you got all kinds of awesome Pokemon who are on this card. Plus it's from 151, plus it's Pikachu. Like, what more do you need to say that this card is going to be absolutely epic? I do think the fact that there are some equally epic, if not more epic cards from 151 out there right now, I think that's causing this to fly under the radar a little bit, but that's great for people like you and me who are looking for some value. So even though this card is not depressed in terms of a pricing perspective, even though it's pretty much flat from when it came out, again, at $20 to be the Pikachu from the 151 set with all of those other awesome Pokemon on there, I just think that this card has upside written all over it. And we do have a lot of other cards that we can compare it to from the past, which makes me feel really good about saying that. I do think it's going to take a couple years for that value to unlock, right? I think there's going to be a lot of 151 ripped in the future. I think there's going to still be plenty of 151 in the market, but the demand seems to be there. The demand seems to just absorb all of the 151 that's being released. And so when I see a card like this, I feel really, really good about it. And I'm absolutely hyped to have this on the list. Now, the next one right here might surprise you. A Dendra right here, right? Again, from Paldea Evolved. But this card is doing exactly what I kind of talked about the first one from Paldea Evolved. You know, it was going through its normal Pokemon pop and flop, but it has found a ton of support at the $9 range, and I've been hunting for this on eBay, and these are routinely going in the $13, $14, $15 range. So this price graph might actually be behind the curve a little bit. And you know, I think trainers in Scarlet and Violet right now overall are in the middle of a really, really difficult market, right? I've talked about Silver Tempest, right? I say Silver Tempest came out. It was in the middle of the Pokemon pop and flop, right? And then the market started to correct as a whole. So I think Silver Tempest has really been depressed, right? And then we look at the trainers from here in Scarlet and Violet, and I feel like the same thing is going on, right? Like Scarlet and Violet as a whole, as I said at the beginning, I think the whole era is being overlooked. Then I think trainers, especially modern trainers, not so much the Sun and Moon era, but the Sword and Shield trainers, the Scarlet and Violet trainers, like I think they're getting beaten down because the trainers got so hot for a while. They're starting to correct. I just think everything in the world is pent up against these trainers from the Scarlet and Violet era. And guess what? For me, that's exciting. That's awesome, because cards that I think should be a $15, $20, $25 card are now just like this going for $9. I am very, very excited that this will probably be the big trainer card from the Paldea Evolved set, right? And you can get it in the $10 range right now. I love buying awesome things in a time of max pessimism. Like, I love it when everybody is depressed on something and I'm sitting right there with my open arms to go ahead and scoop it up. And I think this is a great example of that right here. Okay, and then this one right here, again, I was really looking for value in 151. And it's hard. I don't think 151 is overvalued, but I think a lot of the cards are rightly priced right now. I think they're at the prices that I would expect maybe 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, but they just got there a little early and they continue to hold their water. And this Poliwhirl right here, I love. This one is, to me, the artwork on this is absolutely fire, right? Like, I think this is amazing. I think some of these, I even hate to call them second tier cards, but some of these lower end cards which have these awesome artworks on it, like, I think this card has a bright future in front of it. Now, is it going to be a $100 card in the future? Abso-freaking-lutely not. But do I think that buying this in the $10 range right now is going to give you some upside? Plus, you have an amazing piece of art, this absolute crazy awesome cardboard from the 151 set to add to your collection. Like, all of those things just get me so incredibly pumped up. I love that staring into the puddle, looking at its reflection. For whatever reason, it makes me reminiscent of the original Holo cards. I don't know why, and I know that's a bad comparison, but when I look at it, that's the emotions that it gives me, and I think that's really cool. And I think this card absolutely has the opportunity to perform well. I think compared to some of the peers, when you look at some of the cards with similar artwork in 151 that are priced higher than this, I think this one is every bit as good, if not better, than some of the ones that are already in the $20 range. So that's why I added this one to the list right here. Okay, you know I always add a bonus card, and I'm going to be transparent. This is the bonus card right here. I talked a little bit about how some of our full art trainers here in the Scarlet and Violet era are kind of depressed, and I think this is one of them as well. This thing is in the $5 range. Now, I know the special illustration rare Parasol Lady is always going to be the big one. It's going to get all the love. Like, yeah, that card is stunning, but I think this card is stunning too. When you look at the artwork on here, and I always compare the artwork from trainers to the Sun and Moon era, and I know Sun and Moon got really pumped up during 2019, 2020, 2020, even into 2021 with a lot of this pandemic pump. So a lot of those cards are probably priced higher than they should be. But still, when I look at the art is what really what made a lot of people dive into it and fall in love with those trainers. This card, from a artwork perspective, just really mirrors and in my mind looks a lot very similar to some of those cards that we see in the Sun and Moon era. And again, it's $5 freaking. Now I get it, Paradox Rift just came out. This card probably has, I don't know how much further it can go down. Like, is it a $4 card? Is it a $3 card? I don't know, but I do think that in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whenever, if I look back at this and I say, hey, I bought 10 of these for $5 each, I think I'm gonna feel really, really good about buying this card at that price, because I just think it checks a lot of boxes. I think the artwork is there, and I think it's just really cool. So I would happily add this to the list, and I think this card does have some upside potential. So that's it. What's really exciting to me is I'm going to do this again in another 3 months, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 4 months, but I'm going to come back and look at Scarlet and Violet all over again. I'll look at these cards and see how they performed. We're going to see if there are some other cards. I had about 6 other cards that I really thought hard about putting on this list, because I think that there's probably 10 or 15 cards from the Scarlet and Violet era that aren't getting all the love right now that they deserve. So it'll be really interesting to see how those perform as well, and to see if this list changes, or if we add some of them in, or even if some of the new Scarlet and Violet stuff that drops ends up on this awesome list moving forward. So hey, if you made it to the very end, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you more than you possibly know. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you see, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. I hope you all have an epic one, and thank you so much for watching. See ya.